All right, welcome in. If you're a fan of working up a sweat, you have come to the right place. This show, of course, is called The Sweat. We come to you every single Sunday throughout the football season, Monday through Friday as well, during, well, the rest of the year. So make sure you check us out. But this is the last time in 2018.
Yes, it is.
It's sad, isn't it? Last Sunday show of the football season, at least the regular season. We'll let you know if anything changes along the way. Adam Kaufman, Brendan Glasheen. We have brought out the big guns. All right, we have got DK Live's Reed Fowler, Greg Ehrenberg, and, well, he's more like a BB gun, but Jeff Ulrich is here as well.
It's Week 17, last games of the regular season. There's a ton on the line in terms of playoff seeding, teams still fighting to get in, but there are also plenty of big names you have to avoid. One of those is Ezekiel Elliott, with Dallas locked into the 4 seed. He's going to rest against the Giants today. So, Greg, where will the Cowboys replace his production?
Yeah, well, I don't think they're actually going to be able to replace all of his production, but I think it'll probably be Rod Smith who will get most of the carries at running back. One thing that I do think is probably going to provide the most leverage on a Week 17 slate is just go to the DK Live app and make sure the guys you roster are actually playing. Like, I think where the most value is in the final week of the season, there's going to be a lot of dead lineups. Just people are like, oh, I'm playing Ezekiel Elliott this week, or I'm playing, like, Drew Brees, and people are just going to roster guys that aren't even going to take the field.
Jeff, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, playing guys that are actually playing. That is a pretty solid advice. In all seriousness, right? So, I mean, I'm feeling more like a slingshot today than a BB gun. But look,
there you go.
It's Week 17. It's the last week of the regular season. I mean, I think that there's some interesting value opening up, and you really have to look at the workload situation. So a guy like Dwayne Washington in New Orleans, who's probably going to be the only running back active, it looks like, for them, or at least the only running back who's going to get carries, because Kamara and Ingram might not get anything more than like a ceremonial first carry on the first drive. So situations like that's where you want to key in. Guys are getting bigger workloads than they would have been in the past.
Oh, a bit of an empty room there behind you, Jeff. Did you just move?
No, I've lived here for a while.
No appliances. Maybe we should give you a slingshot and a
commenting
BB gun.
on my empty house.
Just sitting there with all your friends.
Oh, caution, everybody. All of his picks may have cost him some of his appliances in the background.
All right, let's go.
Reed!
Fire me up. Let's go.
Hi, Reed. What do you got for us here? Your thoughts on the Ezekiel Elliott inactive news?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about earlier in the season, or excuse me, earlier in the week, right? How can you trust Jerry Jones and what he says? Clearly, this is the exact opposite. But to Greg's point, to just take it a little bit further, pick guys that are starting, right? Not even just playing in the game. Pick starters, obviously. There's obviously some value elsewhere in the lower K ranges in terms of running backs, receivers. And so guys, even if they have more to play for as well, if they have records to break, obviously, Davante Adams is a guy who's coming in a little banged up, but if he's playing, right, you want to attack these guys that have a little bit more to play for if it's not to play throughout December, January. So that'd be my only
Should say that too. We haven't even mentioned Rod Smith, who's probably going to get the majority of the carries now for Dallas.
Well, Greg did, so you got to listen.
Playing. So Rod Smith definitely in play, just like Dwayne Washington in New York.
All right, a lot of fire here early on. Davante Adams inactive today, fellas. So we can mention that one right off the hop here. Obviously, the fact that he's not going to play for Green Bay, one less key guy that Aaron Rodgers has to throw to. It's a meaningless game, ultimately, for the Packers, so that's not a real big deal. But with him sitting out, where does that offensive production come from? Is there anyone that can duplicate in any way today what Davante Adams typically does, Reed?
Well, no, not really, right? This guy is amazing. Number one in red zone targets, efficiency, targets in general. I think he's the guy that has supplanted Antonio Brown. Well, I know he's the guy that supplanted Antonio Brown as the number one receiver so far in fantasy. So no one can replicate that. Obviously, with some other guys in, like MVS, these guys that Randall Cobb obviously is healthy. There are guys that can fill in if Adams is out. Again, value to be had here if he's not in, because Rodgers is going to throw the ball a ton, but no one can replicate him.
Greg, where do you think somebody can, come up with some reasonable production who would otherwise not have stood out today?
Yeah, so I guess that it would have to kind of be like Randall Cobb at this point. I know that he's been a little bit banged up this year. I think it even makes sense that you could just roll out Aaron Rodgers maybe naked here if you want exposure to the Packers passing game. It is a good matchup against the Lions, who are 32nd in pass DVOA. So there is upside there. Just it's hard to really figure where the ball is going to go. In terms of how I would like to build my lineups optimally today, I think it's probably to go cheap at running back and then pay up at wide receiver. So I don't know if I have all that much interest in cheap Packers wide receivers.
Jeff, what's your approach to this Green Bay game? Any at all?
Yeah. So only person who has any interest for me on Green Bay is Jamal Williams. Now that Davante Adams is not playing. I also think there's a big risk with Aaron Rodgers here. Like, I would not be shocked if Aaron Rodgers didn't play the second half or something like that. It's a completely meaningless game. He's had injuries. Now the star receiver that he has, who he was supposedly going to help chase a record, isn't even playing. Why would the Packers even risk Aaron Rodgers in this game? So don't be shocked if you see Deshaun Kaiser at some point. I'm not saying there's been no news reports, just speculation by me, but I'm not touching Aaron Rodgers this week. I think Jamal Williams is the only player that really has any interest for me on Green Bay.
All right, we just got a long list of inactives today. The Saints are going to be without Drew Brees today. He's inactive. Alvin Kamara, Ted Ginn added to that list. We mentioned Adams. Kenny Golladay is out for the Lions. No Leonard Fournette. He was doubtful 2 days ago. He's inactive. Cordero Patterson out for the Patriots. Deshaun Jackson, who wants to move from Tampa Bay, he is out. Kiki Coutier is out. Deonta Freeman is out. Devin Funchess out. Carlos Hyde is the only active that we just got. So let's discuss the Saints. Greg, any instant reaction, knee-jerk reaction to the Saints today? I know you're going to have a pick later on for the audience that you like in this game.
Yeah, I do like Dwayne Washington today, and that's only bolstered by the fact that there is no Alvin Kamara, that he's inactive. The Saints, they're locked into their playoff spot. They're not going to be playing a lot of they don't have incentive to play their starters. They're going to be resting guys. They're trying to get healthy for the playoffs. So Washington makes sense.
How about you, Reed? Any thoughts on the Saints today with all these inactives?
Yeah, I think Washington's a solid play. You can also look at that defense, right? I mean, both teams in Carolina not necessarily playing for much, and neither are the Saints outside of making sure those guys stay healthy. So the defenses potentially are in play. This could be a low-scoring game. We could see Teddy Bridgewater, right, play 3 quarters. So don't know why he's not starting the entire game. But Bridgewater provides some, but to Greg's point, even going to quarterback, why even go really cheap with quarterback? You want to pay up for some of these studs that we'll talk about later in the show. So defense and maybe Teddy Bridgewater.
Jeff, anything to add?
I feel like Bridgewater, he might get, snaked in by a Taysom Hill running touchdown or something, because you're going to see Taysom Hill in this game too. So I don't really like going with the quarterback here for New Orleans, but every other position seems to be in play. I like the defense. I like Dwayne Washington for sure. And then even though receivers we haven't really talked about too much, but Keith Kirkwood should see a ton of action in this game. I'd probably say he's most likely to get like the Michael Thompson treatment for what it's worth. But I don't think you need to go there at quarterback personally, because I think there's going to be a bit of a split of reps. But Dwayne Washington, defense, and some of those cheap wide receivers all in play.
Well, as more actives and inactives are released over the course of this 90-minute show, we'll be sure to get them to you and, of course, analyze for your lineup construction. Let's put these next couple guys together quickly. We don't have a lot of time, but both Steelers. As we know, Pittsburgh needs a win, some help to get into the playoffs. Antonio Brown not expected to play. That could change. He's going to test himself out before the game. James Conner on the good side of a game-time decision. So, Greg, Big Ben just going to be feeding Juju Smith-Schuster and Jalen Samuels all day. What do you anticipate?
Yeah, so I definitely like Juju a lot. I think that he's the best overall wide receiver play. I think he's the guy to play in cash. I think he's got to play in GPP. James Conner's a really interesting GPP play to me. I wouldn't play him in a cash game because I think he's too risky. We don't know how healthy he is. We don't know what his workload is going to be if he plays. But one of the surest fire ways to be profitable over the course of the season has just been play whoever is at running back for the Steelers. And if James Conner is going to start, there's a chance that he sees a full workload, and he could have the biggest scoring game of any running back on the slate at low ownership in the optimal situation for him.
Jeff, what's your approach?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I'm not going to bother with Antonio Brown. I just think there's too much likelihood that even if he is active, he's just going to be a decoy out on the field. And I'd prefer Conner over Juju Smith-Schuster personally. Greg kind of just mentioned it, but they're 14-point favorites at home, and Pittsburgh only likes to use one running back. So if he's active, he's almost certainly going to get a big workload. And all the practice notes and stuff on James Conner have been positive. He's practiced in full. So I think they're just waiting to confirm it. But I think he's going to get a full workload today personally.
Reed, anything to add quickly?
No, that's it. I mean, like the Steelers lost 4 of the last 5, right? So they need to win. I think if James Conner is 75, 80%, you're still going to give him the full complement of snaps. So I like him this week.
We should mention as well, Titans quarterback Marcus Mariota, Stingers should keep him out tonight against the Colts, which is significant because, like the Steelers, as Adam mentioned, they're in the hunt in the AFC. Blaine Gabbert will get the nod for Tennessee instead, but this game isn't on the main slate, so we're really not all that worried about it.
No, we're worried about a lot of different things, though, including Chase Fade. That is coming up next. You don't want to miss that. Of course, we'll bring in Steve Buchanan as well to join this crew. And also, if you happen to be playing any contests of Buffalo Wild Wings, DraftKings special offer for you there. And Pat Mayo with some instructions on how you want to do that.
Pat Mayo here with an exciting new way to heat up your Sundays this football season. DraftKings has teamed up with Buffalo Wild Wings to bring you a fantasy experience like no other. Blazin' Fantasy Football, a new free game only available inside Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Want to win free wings for a year, game tickets, Buffalo Wild Wings gift cards, or Blazin' Rewards points? Here's how. Head to Buffalo Wild Wings, download the Blazin' Rewards app, and join. Already a member? Not a problem. Just log in and fire up the app. Click or tap the Blazin' Fantasy Football icon, join a contest, draft your lineup, and get ready to compete against rivals in all Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Blaze your way up the leaderboard by drafting who you think will be the top 8 players, including kickers. Best part? You've got a chance to really rack up the score with your blazing pick. It's worth double points, so choose wisely. Don't just wing it. Draft your team in one of Sunday's 4 contests before each half of the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern games. Then, grab some wings, sit back, and watch your team light up the leaderboard. Come back every Sunday for new contests each week. DraftKings and Buffalo Wild Wings, the right stack for Sundays.
We're back for NFL Chase Fade with DK Live's Reed Fowler, TSN's Andy McNamara, and our resident show volunteer, Steve Buchanan. We don't even invite him on. He just keeps showing up.
Speechless.
There
All
he
right,
is.
we're going to talk spreads,
And
boys.
we put him in the middle.
Yeah, wouldn't you know? Chiefs 14.5-point favorites against the Raiders. KC, of course, needs to win to lock up home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs, or can guarantee it anyway. Chase or fade, the Chiefs easily cover here, Bukes.
You know, Brendan, you made something about Jeff's background. You know, if you were actually here, he's there almost every week. So I guess you would have to be here to actually know that he sits there for almost every show. Let's talk about this Chiefs cover here. I mean, here's my only thing. The only concern I have with this number here is, what is this game going to look like in the second half? If the Chiefs are blowing this game out and they don't need their starters in this game, they're going to absolutely pull them out here. And it's not like Derek Carr has been absolutely incompetent. We saw what he did against his team already this season. I think he had 24 DK fantasy points against this defense. This defense is still bad for the Chiefs. So if we get a lot of Derek Carr garbage time, I think that could really ruin the day for people who are taking this 14.5 cover. So overall, I do like it, but it's concerning to think about how this game is going to play out in the first half, and if Derek Carr can start throwing in the second half with, you know, the secondary guys in there.
I think most are logically assuming a KC win here, but Andy, easy cover? What do you think? 14.5.
Just like my Christmas sweater, gentlemen, the Raiders D is ugly, right? So I'm going to say this team has nothing to play for. It's not like they're going to rally for John Gruden, right? They hate the guy. And I absolutely agree with, in the second half, could get a little dicey with that Chiefs defense if Derek Carr can get some garbage numbers. But I'm still buying the Chiefs with something to play for, that they're going to steamroll this Raiders club who just want to get this year over with. I think they've quit.
Reed, any reason to think otherwise?
Yeah, I think I agree with Steve a little bit more here in terms of that backdoor cover, especially division games. KC is only 5.5 in the plus differential against the spread, right? And the only thing about Oakland, too, right? We all talked about it, nauseam. They're a bad defense. They don't necessarily want to play for much. They want to play for next year. I get all of that narrative, but these division games are always tough. And look, Kansas City didn't barely beat Oakland, but they clearly didn't cover last time these teams met in Oakland, now at Arrowhead. I agree that this is going to be a cover. To say it's easy, I don't think so.
Eagles need more Nick Foles magic to make the playoffs, and then they need some help. They're 6.5-point favorites in Washington. They need the Vikings to win today against the Bears as well. Andy, chase or fade, Foles gets the job done again, and Philly wins by double digits.
Double digits is tough. I believe he will get it done. I'm fully expecting that Nick Foles' ridiculous magic to continue. Double digits against Washington, who they're obviously not great, right? The quarterback situation is a train wreck, but they're still playing for Gruden, the other Gruden, the good Gruden. They're still playing for him. And so I think that Foles gets it done, but not by double digits.
The good Gruden.
I didn't know there was
harsh.
a good Gruden.
Reed, do you agree here with Andy that Nick Foles will get it done, but are you a little bit more hesitant about the double-digit thing?
Yeah, I don't think there's a good Gruden this year at all, so I'm going to fade that. But again, fading the question here that double digits is going to happen. Both teams their pace of play is really slow, so double digits is kind of out of the question for me, especially with Philly. They're only a -1 aggregate in terms of against the spread in this number, so I'm going to say no, fade.
Steve, chase or fade this?
When Reed just said fade, I honestly thought he just called you babe. I think this is totally viable. I mean, look, the Redskins have absolutely nothing left in the tank, and they're just looking forward to when this game is over to end this disastrous season. Who is left on this Redskins team that is going to beat the Eagles or limit their opportunities here? What's Michael Floyd going to go off for 100 receiving yards today? I mean, come on. They have absolutely nobody left here. This is an easy game for the Eagles. I think they win by double digits here.
Sounds like Steve thinks you're kind of a babe.
Yeah, true. Its true colors come out. It's
Be the
still
only person who
2018.
thinks that.
All right, how about the Vikings, guys? 6-point favorites against the Bears. Game they need to win. Chicago could still earn a first-round bye, so there's motivation on both sides. Chase or fade, the Vikes don't cover, but do win, Reed. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to chase this. I mean, this question is sort of a kind of a confusing in terms of yes, they do win, but
You want me to
I
talk
think
slower?
they win this game. I think they win this game. Be quiet, Steve. It's not your turn yet.
That was me.
I think they win this game. Like Chicago's top 10 in the NFL and covering against the spread, like 11-4. Right, these teams. Chicago does really well in terms of these numbers. Low scoring game, in my opinion. But in terms of where you're at here, if you're Minnesota, you have to win. So I'm going to chase this.
Steve, you can go since Reed thought you did already.
I know, I wasn't even talking.
No, that
so
one
an
was me.
apology is due.
It's a first.
Go
No
ahead.
apology? Okay, fine. Look, this is a battle against two really good defenses. This is one of those games where I feel like it's going to end up taking a special teams touchdown to win this one. But I like the Bears in this one, honestly. One of the areas that the Vikings struggle with is with passing down backs. Now they're going to take on Tariq Cohen, and we've seen Mitch Trubisky lean on Cohen for games like this. So I like this game a lot for the Bears. Not so much for the Vikings. Like I said, this is going to be a close game, I think, overall. But I think the Bears take this one.
Andy, beat Chicago.
Yeah, I'm
going to
go with Reed on this one as far as the chase factor. The Bills or the Bears defense is so good, right? And we've seen how dominant they can be all season long. The Vikings just overall really haven't impressed me all season long, so I'm not seeing any sort of blowout here. Bears still have something to play for, so I will chase that Vikings win, but they don't cover.
All right, this game, Colts-Titans, not on the main slate, but let's get to it anyway. Colts are 4-point favorites in their must-win against Tennessee. Chase or fade, Indy with the outright win. Steven?
Yeah, you got to take them in this one, especially with Mariota, the questionable status with him at this juncture. It's just one of the things that if they don't have Mariota, they're not going to have his leg, and that's been one of their best weapons, obviously, throughout the years. So you put in Blaine Gabbert. I mean, do you remember him when he was with the Jaguars? I mean, it was just absolutely atrocious what he was doing out there. And then what are they going to get going? They're not going to get much on the ground. The Colts are really good against the run game. I mean, if anything, this feels like a Dion Lewis game. If your season's riding on the shoulders of Dion Lewis, yeah, I'll just take the Colts in this one.
Andy, do you care to agree with Steve?
Blaine Gabbert ends any conversation. Blaine Gabbert at quarterback, I don't even need to know who the opponent is. I'm taking the opponent. I'll say not only the Colts cover, I'll say they win by at least a touchdown. Blaine Gabbert is hot garbage. We know this. Without Marcus Mariota, this is a wash. Colts go into the playoffs.
And Reed?
Steve, you didn't like Blaine Gabbert when he's with the 49ers?
Oh, yeah. I have his jersey.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. Gabbert's terrible. I do like that Dion Lewis call. I think it's going to be a catch-up game for Dion Lewis in Tennessee. But, yeah, I agree with these guys. In Indianapolis, 4-3 on the road. They need to win this game, right? So, yeah, I agree.
Mariota's got to be that banged up to not be able to go today in a must-win situation.
Yeah, it's also just not much of a drop-off from Mariota to Gabbert,
Fair.
We're being honest. All right, we got a sportsbook update on the way you do not want to miss after some news and notes, including the latest. Anything, if it hasn't been said already, about Titans QB Marcus Mariota, that's right here.
I'm Taryn Azak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. It's win or go home in tonight's NFL showdown between the Colts and Titans, and there are a couple of key injuries to keep an eye on as we get closer to kickoff. For the Titans, ESPN's Chris Mortensen is reporting QB Marcus Mariota is not expected to play as he is recovering from a stinger he suffered in Week 16. This puts veteran Blaine Gabbert under center for Tennessee. Last week, the 8-year vet replaced Mariota late in the first half and rallied the team to victory over the Redskins. Look for the Titans to go with a run-heavy offense in this one, making Derrick Henry a popular play in tonight's showdown. Over on the Colts side, wide receiver T.Y. Hilton is questionable for the third straight week with an ankle injury, but there is little doubt he will be on the field for the regular season finale. Hilton hasn't practiced all week, but this isn't anything new for the star receiver who has 21 catches for 422 yards over the last 3 games. Hilton also dominated the Titans earlier this year, dusting them for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns in a Week 11 victory. He's the second most expensive player in tonight's showdown, but you should have no reservations about putting him in your lineups. We'll see tonight which team will be moving on to the playoffs. Kickoff is slated for 8:20.
All right, so as you just heard there, probably no Marcus Mariota or Antonio Brown today. He is still a game-time decision.
One's a little fuzzy.
We'll see. Phillip Lindsay definitely out, placed on IR. Ezekiel Elliott is out since the Cowboys are locked into that 4 seed. James Conner, Davante Adams. We know Davante Adams is out today. James Conner is a hopeful game-time decision. Other guys to add here, Carlos Hyde is active. John Brown, Kenny Golladay, T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron, all expected to play today. The other news
Don't
we
forget
have
Drew Brees,
Ted Ginn Jr., Alvin Kamara.
They're not going to play. Just a laundry list. It's Week 17. This is what happens. You have a lot of key guys who don't play. Makes it tougher to set lineups, which is why we're here with you to provide you everything that you need to know. Any guys you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, Kenny Golladay is out. We had him in that expected to play list. He is out today. Cordero Patterson out. Deshaun Jackson is out. Devin Funchess for Carolina is out today. I'm sure we'll be getting a lot more here.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. Now, as we learn more, of course, you will too. In the meantime, let's head to, how about Tennessee? Welcome in, or Mississippi, pardon me. Welcome in Nico Sfanos. He is the director of DraftKings Sportsbook at the Scarlet Pearl. Nico, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, gang. How are you?
Good, thank you. Now, what are some of the trends that you're seeing early today as we approach these somewhat confusing Week 17 games?
You know what? You guys pretty much summed it up right before I came on with the injuries and such. But I took a minute just to look at some of the trends concerning some of the teams that still are in the playoff scenario. And it was interesting. You know, I'm obviously interested in the Baltimore-Cleveland game. And it looks like over the past 3 years that Baltimore is 4-1 against the spread against Cleveland, and 4 or 5 of those games actually went under the total. So that's something to look at, and I'm not sure what's going on with the weather. I did take a quick peek around the country, and it looks like the weather scenario is pretty subtle everywhere. So I don't think we're going to get much action according to the weather. Another game I was looking at was Minnesota and Chicago, which really intrigues me. And it looks like Minnesota's 6-0 against the spread as a 3.5 to 9.5 point favorite in the month of December, which is, or in this current season, which is great. On the same token, Chicago has a terrible record since 1992. They're 15-35 on the road in December, as in any scenario. So against the spread, they're 50-35. And then lastly, I'm looking at Pittsburgh. They're 4-1 against the spread against Cincinnati over the last 3 years, and 4 of 5 of those games have gone under also. So just a little bit of the trends that I've been seeing, going into this week. There's not a lot going on, like you said. At this point in the season, people are picking, their favorite teams, the city they're from, so forth and so on, and nobody knows really what's going on today, just because all the different playoff scenarios. Who's sitting who, whether it be injury or rest.
Nico, speaking to that point, which lines have moved the most this week?
After Tuesday, everything pretty much settled in, and I'm actually going to look at my screen here as we talk. I'm looking at some movement in New Orleans, opened up 9.5, and they moved to 7.5 pretty quickly. And then it started to come back this morning. I saw some 8s and some 8.5s, and now we're back down to 7. I guess Kamara's now out, as we already knew about.
Breeze, Ginn Jr. also out.
And so there you go. You guys are ahead of the game, and we have, injuries and resting time that's going to play into some of these lines. Also I'm looking in New York here, and I see the total came down from 42.5 to 38.5. I looked, it's not weather related. It's pretty balmy. So it's these are the kind of things that we get to in this time. What's somebody seeing? We're in an information era. What are people seeing to drive some of these things? Usually when I see a total moving this late in the game, it's usually weather related or something happened at the buzzer. But, we're still investigating all those things. And of course, our team of DraftKings bookmakers is doing a great job staying on top of this.
So
outside of that, there's not a lot of move. The Minnesota game's moving pretty good. That opened 3.5, and I think that's up to 6 in most places. I see a couple of 5.5s, but looks like Minnesota is taking some business.
Really, this is, we just hit on this, but in case there's any other element to add to it, because it comes back to injuries, it comes back to rest, it comes back to weather, and just the fact that there are game time decisions as things stand right now, about an hour out from a lot of these games. But what news are you watching that could impact lines just in the next hour before the 1 Eastern kickoffs?
Absolutely. And it's the two things we just spoke on. And mainly it's going to be who's going to scratch who at this point. We don't know what's going to happen during warmups. If there's a team that, their playoff scenario is still hinging, they might need to make a decision on whether or not one of their star players is going to go or not go, according to maybe some little injury that might happen in warmups. Do we want to risk, what may happen going forward? Or is this guy going to play? So little things like that. And we're still seeing injuries pop up all morning. Not necessarily injuries, but guys that might be healthy scratches even. So, we're looking at that because those are the things, an hour from game time that are going to, trigger some movement. And also at this point, weather. But like I said, I've been looking at the weather all morning, and I don't think that's going to come into play. But this late, an hour before kickoff, those are kind of the things that you're going to look at.
Well, and Nico, obviously, like public betting can sway the action as well. But where, I guess realistically, I'm just wondering, in an hour's time, how much can a line realistically move anyway? Are we talking like a half point, or can it really move a point or two?
Sure, it can happen. It can happen a point or two. I've seen it. Now in the NFL, there's so much parity. You probably won't see a point or two move this late. If it does, it would come right at kickoff. And then obviously there's some intelligent bettor that or syndicate that comes through, and they have some kind of information that they might think they're going to beat all the bookmakers to the punch with. And in that scenario, that's when I'll see a major line move this late. Outside of that, I think most lines, especially during the course of the season, are steady and won't move until actual game time. So after Tuesday morning, I think everything pretty much settled in until this morning.
Hey, Nico, last one for you here. Given the fact that we're a month away now from the Super Bowl, if you can believe that, which team's chances or betting odds to win the Super Bowl has changed the most as these final weeks unravel?
I'll tell you what, there's a bunch. Obviously, Kansas City's like 5-1 right now. I think early in the season, before the season started, you could have got them at 35-1 or better. I know here we're interested in a couple teams, the Bears in Seattle. Bears are down to 12-1. You could have got them at 100-1. And Seattle right now is around 25-31. And early in the season, they were at 75. Obviously, we're in the Gulf Coast here, so our home team would be the New Orleans Saints. Early in the year, 15-1. Obviously, now they're the favorite. 2-1. Even money in some places. So those are the biggest swings that I saw as far as the Super Bowl the championship.
Sure.
So, Nico, if someone's looking to make a trip to the Scarlet Pearl again in Mississippi and, head to the Gulf Coast, what are some of the reasons to come visit the new DraftKings Sportsbook?
Well, I'll tell you what. When Scarlet Pearl and DraftKings got together, it was a perfect fit. Two really sexy products. We got together. We created a beautiful book. I wish you guys could see it. Maybe one day you'll make a journey down here. But it's just a fantastic place to sit, watch the games. We have some great food venues. And the book is adjacent to our bar and lounge and restaurant. So it just makes for a great venue. The Scarlet Pearl is only 3 years old, so everything here is brand new, fresh, exciting, and the partnership with DraftKings just made for a perfect fit.
Save us a seat. That sounds pretty good.
Nico, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. A lot of fun. All right, we'll bring back the guys shortly for today's anchor picks, but not until we've heard the winners of the 2018 Sweaty.
Yeah. Adam, who is your slate-approved fantasy pick of the NFL season, or if you'd prefer, fantasy MVP?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them. I think obviously the name that everyone's going to throw out there is Pat Mahomes. I mean, what that guy did this season is unbelievable, especially for a second-year player, really playing in his first real full season, as we know. To have more touchdown passes than Brady and Rodgers combined just says it all. Another guy I would quickly mention is George Kittle, the tight end of the 49ers, who is on pace to potentially set the all-time record for receiving yards by a tight end in this season.
Patrick Mahomes is a guy that I'm going to talk about just a little bit. Obviously, we know what he's been able to do with the starting job there in Kansas City. And he's obviously a tide that rises all boats. Adam mentioned it in terms of his touchdown rate. But if you look at other guys, right, just some honorable mentions. Phillip Lindsay, James Conner, a couple of guys that, in terms of where you drafted in season long, right, gave you return on investment quite nicely. A guy, Phillip Lindsay, an undrafted free agent. James Conner, a guy that obviously in that position flourished quite a bit. So if not Patrick Mahomes, it'd be those two guys for me.
Jeff?
I mean, look, it's if you say anyone other than Patrick Mahomes, you're crazy. I mean, he outscored Ben Roethlisberger in PPR scoring by over 4 points this year. Ben Roethlisberger was the second highest per game scorer in fantasy football, and you just usually don't see that kind of spread at the quarterback position. Tends to be very close in terms of the top scorers. So for him to do that on a per game basis is kind of insane. He was easily the most valuable fantasy player in my opinion. And if I would have to give a shout out, it would actually be to one of his teammates. It's Travis Kelce, who outscored George Kittle by 3 points per game as well. If you inserted Travis Kelce at tight end every week this year, you had a massive advantage over the field because tight end was such a thin position. So I think what Kelce did gets a little bit overlooked. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with Mahomes. So Mahomes is still the MVP, but my secondary MVP, I guess, would be Kelce because he just dominated that position this year.
You know, you look kind of good with cheese on your head.
I don't know how to take that, but thank you. We had a good time.
Yeah, you did.
Looks
like fun.
If you enjoyed it, the full show of the first annual Sweaties will drop New Year's Day. About 15 minutes of, well, that. Goofy awards, so check them out.
All right, let's dive back into our Week 17 analysis with DK Live's Jeff Ulrich, Greg Ehrenberg, and just a real sourpuss, Steve Buchanan.
Oh, jeez. It's time to find out who you're building your lineups around, guys. No, I'm not even going to let you finish that thought. Which DST is the best play? Anchors first. Jeff, who you like?
One with George Kittle from the San Francisco 49ers. I think most people know by now. And if you don't, him and Travis Kelce are chasing history this week, trying to become the record for single season yards gained receiving by a tight end. Kittle trails Kelce by a little bit. And I think most people are expecting Kelce to get there, but you look at the factors thrown in, San Francisco has nothing to play for. So why not just give Kelce 15 targets in this game and let him get the record? You know, Kansas City still has to make sure they win the game. They still have to put together a game plan. 49ers have nothing to play for but getting Kittle this record. So I really like starting lineups with George Kittle this week.
Steve, we're talking anchors, so try not to drown the segment, please.
Oh, please. I'm the last person to drown this segment, okay, pal? Yeah, originally it was going to be Davante Adams, but with the news that he's out now, I'm just going to go right and switch to Juju Smith-Schuster. Look, Ben Roethlisberger has been favoring him so much lately. Yes, I know that Antonio Brown is just coming off a game where he had 19 targets, but to look over the last 3 weeks, what these guys have been getting for targets, Juju's seen 15, 10, and 12 compared to Brown, who's had 19, and then 7 in the past 2 weeks before that. You look, they're both in really good individual matchups. The Bengals have been so poor against opposing receivers. They're allowing an average of 170 receiving yards per game this season. Look, I'm not even going to chance it with Brown. Take the $400 salary savings you're going to get from Juju over Brown and take Smith-Schuster.
Once again, if you're just joining us, the expectation, Antonio Brown not going to play today, at least coming into the day, and now this morning, we'll see. Still to be determined, early afternoon at this point. Greg, who you start your lineup with?
Yeah, well, I feel like Steve really undercut me there because I have Juju also. Steve just picking somebody who's not even playing today, is injured, and then just comes on the show right before me, steals my pick, like the Carlos Mencia of the DFS show.
Sorry.
So, I mean, I have to agree with Steve, obviously, because that's my pick. But just to add on, if Antonio Brown is he's either going to be out, which means more targets for Juju. If Brown plays, like Jeff said earlier, I have to think that Brown is just going to be a decoy at this point, which maybe that's even better for Juju if Brown plays at this point because it's somebody else who would have to draw coverage that I don't really think is 100%. So Juju, who's actually been the Steelers' number one receiver for the majority of the season, he leads the team in most of the categories other than touchdowns. So Juju he's been the Steelers' basically de facto number one receiver, and he's going to get a gazillion targets this week.
Greg,
you guys going to go challenge Juju Smith-Schuster to a Fortnite battle after this game?
Yes.
Oh, God, Jeff.
Well, Greg handled that like a champ because, if Greg stole Steve's pick, we wouldn't hear the end of it. Jeff, how about a defense and a special teams pick?
Oh, okay, I guess. Seahawks. Why
Please.
not? I mean, it's like, why haven't we learned now that the Cardinals are just the most terrible team on the face of the planet? I mean, just play the defense that's going against them. And for everyone saying that the Seahawks don't have anything to play against, I mean, I actually think they'd much rather go to Dallas than go to cold Chicago, which is where they're going to have to go if they lose this game. So there is something on the line here. Pete Carroll has said all week he's playing starters. I think they're just going to demolish the Cardinals, and I think their defense might have a lot to do with that in this game. So if you can get up to Seattle, I think they have to be the number one play on your board.
Too bad Rosalie isn't here to respond to that.
Greg's got to be feeling good, like the only guy that you haven't attacked today. But Jeff needs an interior designer, apparently. Bukes, you've been a little defensive today. Who's your choice?
Tough not
A little defensive?
Oh, no. Look, I'm going with the Saints. I mean, look, they're going up against the Carolina Panthers. Like when you go to the high school fields, the 12-year-olds are playing football. That's what this game's going to look like here today with Kyle Allen under center for the Carolina Panthers in this one. Look, he's prone to interceptions in college. I don't expect that it's going to change here in the NFL. He had 18 through his 3-year career and just a 61% completion rate. And let's not forget the Saints can capitalize on those turnovers as well. We've seen them end with over 10 DK fantasy points 5 times already this season for 2,700 for a defense that's going up against a third-string quarterback. Definitely not a play that you can avoid.
And Greg, take us home.
Why would any of us know what it's like to go to a high school football field to watch 12-year-olds play football?
Yeah, wait till you have kids, buddy. You'll see.
Well, when you're
No,
12, you're not in
fair.
high school.
That's fair. Yeah, that's also true. But no, I don't know what it's like to watch 12-year-old boys play football. With that said, I have to agree with Jeff here. I think that the Seahawks defense is the best one to target. The Cardinals offense has been terrible this year. They're last overall in offensive DVOA. They're last in pass DVOA. They're last in run DVOA. I don't know how they're going to score points. They have rookie quarterback Josh Rosen, who's scoring under 10 DK points per game. So I think there's a lot of upside for the Seahawks defense. There's a lot of there's upside and there's ceiling and there's floor. Like, I don't think there's any way they fail in this spot.
I will say this. I like Steve's as a secondary pick. I mean, the Saints at home versus like a third-string quarterback, it doesn't even matter if they're playing their second stringers on defense. It's just a nightmare. So I think 2,700 for the Saints is still a really good, solid value too.
All right, excellent work, gents. We will talk to you again. But first, Brendan here moderated this week's Papa John's Sunday picks. Let's get them.
Hey everyone, I'm Brendan Glasheen along with DK Live's Adam Levitan and Reed Fowler. They're here to help you make your pick for DraftKings Team Pick'em. It's presented by Papa John's. You get 25% off any regular menu price orders by using the promo code DK25. We're targeting 3 games in week 17 with interesting storylines, guys. Last picks of the season, so let's make these count. It's sort of a must-win for the Vikings to make the playoffs. Mini hosts NFC North champion Chicago, and the Bears are still alive for a first-round bye. So, which team gets the job done? Levy.
Yeah, I think the Bears go in here, and I think this Vikings team has been pretty overrated all year by a lot of people, including myself. I think finally we get them exposed here and get them out of the playoffs. I know the Bears have a slim chance. They need the Rams to lose, but they still have a chance to secure a first-round bye, and that's so huge. I think they get to Kirk Cousins early and often here, and that's really one of the biggest mismatches on the slate, the Bears defensive line against the Vikings offensive line.
Reed?
Yeah, I'm going on the other side with Minnesota. There's both narratives here at play, right? Chicago getting the higher seed and obviously Minnesota having to win to get in. They could still potentially get in with loss, but you want to be sort of the dictators of your own fate. And I think, like Levy was saying, we did overwrite them a little bit, but still, these guys have some of the best wide receiver tandems. And I know Chicago is the best in terms of DVOA or whatever statistic you want to use. Chicago's defense is fantastic. I think Minnesota's defense also has to show up here. So with that narrative, I'm going with the guys that are favored, but in my opinion, are still the underdogs of Minnesota.
The Giants are playing for pride, welcoming in their rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. It's a tune-up game for Dak, Zeke, and company before the postseason. So who are you leaning towards here, Reed?
Yeah, if we believe in Jerry and what he's saying is that they're not going to rest their starters. But look, if that's true, even if it's not, if Zeke and Dak and these guys get the full complement of snaps, I do think Dallas wins. I think you want to keep that momentum going. And like you were saying, Brendan, like you have to. These guys are, coming into the playoffs on a high momentum, on a high streak. So you don't want to lose that necessarily to a division team. And the Giants have nothing to play for outside of, beating this team in the last week. So I'm going to say Dallas here. Even if they rest their starters, I still think Dallas can win this.
How about you, Levy?
Yeah, I don't believe a word out of Jerry Jones' mouth. He said the same thing 2 years ago when Dallas had the number 1 seed locked up, and he said they wouldn't rest their starters, and it turned out the starters only played 2 series. So we'll see what they do this time. Yeah, maybe they regret it because they didn't play well. The next time, maybe they do play the starters more. I still would be surprised if they played the whole game. Regardless, I think it's a tough spot for them, just the players mentally knowing that they have nothing really to play for. They don't want to get hurt. And this Giants team, as we saw last week, still has some fight. I mean, they should have won that game against the Colts last week, still have some of the best offensive weapons in the entire league. So if you can get league average play or slightly below from Eli Manning, you can win some games.
All right, last one, the other NFC East matchup. The Eagles need to beat the Redskins to even have a shot at protecting their reign as Super Bowl champions. Will Nick Foles make magic happen again, Levy?
I don't think so. I think this Josh Johnson offense is actually more competent than what we've seen from the Redskins all year. And I know it doesn't look great statistically. They have played the Jags and the Titans the last 2 weeks, 2 really good defenses. Now they get this Eagles team, which is struggling so badly in the back end. So, yeah, I think Josh Johnson is pretty competent. The defense continues to play really hard. How will they play now that they've been eliminated? We'll see. But there's so much pressure on the Eagles here, and I'm not sure how they'll respond.
Reed?
Yeah, if you told us that Josh Johnson, Adrian Peterson, Sprinkle, and Vernon Davis would be some starters for the Redskins in Week 17, I'd laugh in your face. But, look, it's a nice story, and I wasn't a believer in Nick Foles and the Eagles last week, and they obviously came out and beat that team. And, look, I get it, right? This magic has to stop at some point, but I'm just not a believer in Washington's offense right now. Like, Adrian Peterson is the focal point of that offense, and that's tough to be said, right? Especially in this matchup where outside of that 90-yard run last time that these two teams faced, he didn't really do that well. And Philadelphia has been playing better against these bigger backs, right? These Leonard Fournettes, the Houston Texans backfield without Lamar Miller. They have trouble with the other types of back, but I think the Eagles here, with all that Levy was saying in terms of a lot of pressure, I think they do step up to it. Again, another team that we thought would be a little bit better than what they've shown throughout the season, obviously dealing with a lot of injuries in the secondary. I just don't see how Washington can move the ball effectively. So I'm going to say Philly here. Still not a believer in Nick Foles, but hey, he's been doing it. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here.
All right, thanks, guys. That'll do it for this week's edition of Make Your Pick for DraftKings Team Pick'em. It's presented by Papa John's. Thanks to Adam Levitan and Reed Fowler all season long for their picks. I'm Brendan Glasheen. Be sure to download the DK Live app for all the latest news and analysis.
You have any other shirts?
Yeah, I like blue.
It's the same shirt.
You do too.
I do like blue. All right, lots of news today. Probably no Marcus Mariota, as we've talked about. We'll find out a little bit later on in the day. Antonio Brown, still a game-time decision. Philip Lindsay's not going to play. Ezekiel Elliott's out. Drew Brees is out. Alvin Kamara's out. Ted Ginn's out. It's a laundry list of people. Kenny Golladay is out. Davante Adams not going to play. Carlos Hyde is active. Yep. John Brown is active. T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron, they're expected to play. Just a ton of people.
That's what happens with Week 17. DK Live's Greg Ehrenberg and Jeff Ulrich are back to chat Sunday stacks. Greg, who are you stacking from the main slate today?
Yeah, so Ben Roethlisberger and Juju Smith-Schuster. As I think about it more, maybe I should have had a little more variance in my picks and mixed it up so I don't talk about the same players over and over again. But one thing we haven't mentioned about Juju yet is maybe there's a little bit of narrative here where the Steelers want to get him a little bit of confidence and have him a chance at redemption for what happened at the end of last week where he fumbled the ball away at the end of the game. If you look at Juju's Twitter and what he's been saying on social media, he's really owned up to it and kind of said like, hey, this is on me. I messed up. But he hasn't really let it bring him down or anything like that. He still seems positive. And I think that the Steelers are going to make a point to really try to establish Juju, get him the ball, especially with Brown either not playing or not at 100%.
How about you, Jeff? Which team stands out?
I don't really buy into the Juju Fortnite whatever narrative that Greg's got going on today. I'd rather just take Patrick Mahomes, who just produces every week, regardless of what video game he's playing. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, I think that's a connection that should get back on track here. Obviously, Tyreek Hill has not scored a touchdown since the big Rams-Chiefs blowout game, but look at how many chances he's had. He's dropped a couple. Mahomes has just barely missed them on a couple. This is a combo that needs to get back on track before the playoffs, and I think if you look at Oakland, what happened the last time they played Oakland? Travis Kelce just absolutely demolished them. And teams tend to usually remember those kind of games and really shift their defense towards not letting it happen again. So I expect the Raiders to be very cognizant of Travis Kelce in this game, and I think that's going to allow Tyreek Hill personally to get big for to get free for a big gain or a big touchdown or two.
Greg, do you have a good contrarian stack people may not be on today? And today's a good one for those because of all the movement of injuries and healthy scratches.
Yeah. Also, Jeff has never seemed older. Where he's like, the Fortnite narrative. What's a Fortnite? Juju's gonna do a Fortnite today.
I figured he'd be saying that Pat Mahomes was playing like he was in a video game, putting up video game numbers. The transition never really came.
Now he's gonna do a Fortnite dance and he's gonna score a touchdown. I think a good contrarian stack, and these are all guys that we've mentioned so far today, is Dwayne Washington and the Saints defense. For Washington, we already know now Kamara's inactive. Ingram, I don't think he's going to get a ton of work just because we know the Saints are kind of trying to rest up for the playoffs now. So Washington is min price. He's $3,000. He doesn't need to do that much to pay off his salary. And I think he's just going to be really involved today. I think he's going to be involved in the pass game. He's going to be involved in the run game. I think they're going to give him red zone touches. So Washington, I think, makes a lot of sense at min price, and I don't think he's going to see a ton of ownership. And then from the Saints defense, it looks like Christian McCaffrey, even if he plays, it's going to be on a limited basis. And then also we just have a bunch of backups going for the Panthers. They have Cam Newton's obviously out. They're down to the third-string quarterback now. So really banged up Panthers offense that's already prone to making mistakes. So I think the Saints defense at 2,700 also makes sense.
Jeff, you know what we're looking for here.
Okay, well, us old people, also known as smart people, are going to be playing the other Pittsburgh stack, which is James Conner and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which I think is a very nice correlation. And I think that the run game here for Pittsburgh is what you should be targeting. But I got another stack. I'm going off board. I know my producers probably hate me right now because they're flashing the James Conner graphic. But Steve Buchanan will love this because he loves playing crappy players. Blake Bortles, D.D. Westbrook, going to win someone a car today. One up against that Texans defense who just gave up 1 million yards to Nick Foles. I know Buchanan's on this one.
Win you a car. I mean, maybe you can win you some toys for your kitchen.
Wow. Sure.
All right, let's mix in some questions here. We've been getting a bunch from the viewers out there on Twitter, on Periscope, on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. So thank you. We appreciate that. What? I'm sorry, what's that now?
Friendster?
Yeah. Friendster, yeah, Napster.
Fortnite questions coming in.
From Major on Facebook. Better cheap option, Royce Lewis or Gus Edwards? What do you think, Jeff?
I assume he meant Royce Freeman.
I would assume so too. It says Royce Lewis. I was thinking Freeman
maybe
as well.
Maybe it's his middle name.
Maybe. We should remind people, by the way, Philip Lindsay's not going to play today, so seemingly Freeman would be a great option. But Jeff.
Yeah, I would go with Freeman of those two.
You got one for Greg?
Just go Freeman.
Sure, yeah. Scott Ray from Facebook, Greg, asks, play both Zach Ertz and Travis Kelce, question mark?
Yeah, I think both are fine. I have a slight lean towards Kelce. And like Jeff said earlier, if I had a second tight end that I want to play, I think I would go towards Kittle over Ertz. But yeah, I think that both of them are fine plays.
Follow-up question. Dylan Schmittler from Facebook asks, is Kelce a bigger cash or GPP play?
I think both. I think he's the safest tight end play on the slate. I would definitely want to play Kelce in cash games just because I think he's going to be really highly owned. I also think that we should start taking some questions from AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah, I mean, if those are available. Hey, Sean wants to know, Jeff, and he's watching on YouTube, so thank you for that. Pat Mahomes or Russell Wilson? We've been on Mahomes constantly, but what do you think?
Yeah, it's got to be Mahomes in this situation. Look, Russell Wilson is he's such a low-volume passer. Could he go off in this situation? Sure, but then you have the Seahawks defense that could go off, the running game. Like, there's just too many factors against Russell Wilson where pretty much all the KC score is coming through Mahomes. So, hey, you got to go with Mahomes.
Greg, I just asked you about Ertz and Kelce. Those are two high-priced tight ends. Kaufman, enough. This is Big Al Rulo from YouTube. Would you rather pay up for 2 6K running backs or 2 6K tight ends? context.
Yeah. So for me, it's the tight ends, just because there's so many good cheap running backs that are in play today that I think it makes sense to go with cheaper running backs. The one expensive running back who I really like is Saquon Barkley. I also think that James Conner, we've talked about a little bit, he makes sense to GPP play. But if I'm going to save money at either tight end or running back, I prefer saving money at running back.
How about Jeff from Irvin on YouTube? Who should you trust today? Tyreek Hill, who you absolutely love, or Robbie Anderson?
I would trust Tyreek Hill in this situation. I mean, Robbie Anderson, look, it's going up against the Patriots. Stephon Gilmore's probably going to cover him a lot. It's just a tough situation to overcome. Like I said, I really feel like this is a get back on track game for Tyreek Hill. So, I definitely pay up for Hill if you can.
All right, we'll give you more questions later on in the show if we have time. We are about halfway home, so make sure you stay with us here for the rest of this one, the final Sunday sweat of the NFL's regular season. Pat Mayo's back with us for his Buffalo Wild Wings blazing picks, and then something I'm really looking forward to. Today it might actually be the highest rated segment of the show. Put Up Your Bukes is on the way.
Pat Mayo here with Sunday's blazing game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Week 17, meaning no better time to attack the full Sunday slate on DraftKings. 15 games, the largest of the season, and the one that comes with the most confusion. Having your hands on as much information as possible right up until kickoff is going to be imperative. Let's start with quarterback, because this one's pretty straightforward. Who's been the best QB all year? Patrick Mahomes. Who has a chance to break the TD record? Patrick Mahomes. Whose offense is projected to score the most points on the slate? Patrick Mahomes. Who's going up against terrible defense on a short week? Still Patrick Mahomes. There's a ton of value in Week 17. Do not pass on Patrick Mahomes. There's no need. The running back, most of the top options are getting a breather in the final week, so you can go scumming for a marginal option in a good spot, or just use a banger returning from injury on a team that needs to win. That'd be James Conner. Practicing in full entering the week, Conner will assume his previous bell cow role as giant favorites, squaring off against a pitiful Bengals defense. Well, they may not get into the playoffs with a win. Pittsburgh has to win to have any chance at all. Do not be afraid of Conner. Finally, at receiver, let's double down on Patrick Mahomes and fire up some Tyreek Hill. Known for his bouts of inconsistency, but also big plays, Hill generally goes off in games when the Chiefs test the limits of the scoreboard. They're going to blow it out. And at home, against the Raiders, in a game with stakes, this is one of those spots. Those were your blazing game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm Pat Mayo.
Thanks, Mayo, for your picks all season long. We're about midway through the NFL Sunday edition of The Sweat. It's time for us to put up your bukes? I don't know. Pay close attention here, Steve. I think I'm in your head.
Wait, we can't hear
You
Reed.
absolutely had no definition, which is not surprising at all.
That's not me. That's Glasheen.
Yeah, I know who it is. I could tell because he looked all flabby.
Okay.
Oh,
there it is. I don't know, man. I look pretty. I look pretty fit.
I mean,
I believe
it's the exact same body.
I think I got the body. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, so Steve's going to give us 3 value plays he likes.
hang out.
He's going to look at my amazing body as well, and then make a DK point projection. Listen at your own risk, because see Willie Snead 0 targets last week. Reed Fowler is going to be here as well to weigh in on Steve's selections.
Oh, let's go.
I didn't even talk about Willie Snead last week. Well, look, Brendan,
I
let me
don't
tell you
know.
something. You need to be here more than once a week to really get in tune with the show. Like, you need to calm down with the insults. You're not very good. This is not your department, okay? Let's do put up your bukes. You just be quiet, and I'm going to talk to Reed. We're going to start with Peyton Barber, okay? He's 3,600 and for 14 BK fantasy points against the Falcons this week. Look, I haven't really seen a lot of buzz about Barber this week, and I get it. He's not a sexy name. He's not a cute name. He's not a girl goodbye. This is not someone you want to roster on a normal basis, but this is week 17, so we got to get a little bit crazy here. Look, the Falcons are allowing an average of 31.2 DK fantasy points to opposing running backs on the year, 97 rushing yards. Look, he accounts for 53% of the Bucs' red zone carries, and this is a pretty close spread. I don't think there's either side's going to be in a blowout mode here, so I think Barber is going to get some pretty low ownership. We think about Royce Freeman. Obviously, Washington now at 3K is an enticing option, so Barber 3,600. I think he's a pretty interesting pick this week.
Yeah, I mean, like when you talk about Barber, I don't think he's going to be as contrarian as you think, Steve. I think him, along with the guys that you mentioned, are going to be popular because of that Atlanta defense, right? That Atlanta defense is really bad. So you're going to have to eat that chalk, in my opinion, with Barber. And actually, I don't hate this pick. I actually wrote him up in my article as well. He's going to be good. I think actually picking a guy at 14 DK fantasy points, a guy who put up 21 last time he faced this team, I think that's lowballing it a little bit. I would actually think he does a little bit better here in this smash spot. Because Rodgers is there at 40% snap count, I don't think he really gets into that too much for Barber. So I like this pick. I really wish I could have hated it more because I just wanted to end this segment, end this season with a bang. But I like this pick.
Hey, just for the record, I might be on the graphic this week, but I did not make any of these picks. So should they go wrong, look to the less buff guy on the right. So Steve, blow us away with your second value pick.
There is nobody who's even concerned about what you have to say on the show. They like Adam, and that's about it. They should just mute your microphone. All right, let's talk about Kendrick Bourne here going up against the Rams. I mean, honestly, I was actually surprised. I thought he was going to kind of go under the radar a little bit, but I've seen a lot more buzz about him, especially today. And look, he's probably going to be their main target in the 49ers offense that's not named George Kittle. He's seen 13 targets the last 3 weeks. Well, with Dante Pettis not in the mix anymore, he's on the IR now. You know, Bourne's kind of like they're probably wide receiver 2 if you want to consider Kittle a wide receiver. And look, the Rams are one of the more generous defenses against opposing receivers, allowing 137 receiving yards to the Cardinals, 211 to the Eagles 2 weeks ago. I think it's safe to tag Bourne with 6 to 7 targets in this game to help he make some things fit. But, you know, with a lot of the guys that have been ruled out, I don't think Sally's really going to be a problem this week anymore. But, yeah, Bourne's someone that's in almost 100% of my lineups this week.
Reed, do you have any thoughts on the Bourne ultimatum here?
Yeah, man, Glasheen's rubbing off on you. Look, this is, for me, it's going to be tough to trust a wide receiver. I understand the stats that Steve just put up, but the Rams are still 8th per pass DVOA. So it's going to be tough for me to trust a guy like Kendrick Bourne, especially in a game where Kittle was only 100 yards away from breaking Gronk's record. They really want to focus and hone it on him. And look, these guys against the Rams have given up a lot towards tight ends over the last few games. And so when Kittle is there, and I think with Jeff Wilson, especially in a good spot as well, Kendrick Bourne, I think, needs to get into the end zone. I don't think he's a volume guy. Again, a nice play in this range. I like MVS a little bit better. He's going to be against a Detroit defense, especially with Adams out now. He's going to be against a Detroit defense is bad. Pass DVOA, any DVOA that you really consider, Detroit is bad. I like him a little bit more expensive at $100. And the only guy I trust on San Francisco's team really in that passing game is Kittle.
Should I have asked if you had anything on Bourne's supremacy? Would that have been better? No? Okay.
Well, just go to sleep.
Sorry, Mike's still on. Willie Snead was in week 12. Sorry, Steve.
Glad you could catch up.
Yeah, no problem. Give us your third pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Davante Booker here. I mean, there's a lot of buzz about Royce Freeman this week, and I'm honestly not understanding it because I don't see a scenario where the Broncos are going to be ahead and they're going to really use Freeman efficiently in this game. I mean, we have to assume they're going to be playing from behind. So if they're playing from behind, it's more of a game for Davante Booker in this spot because they're going to have to get him in the pass game. Freeman has 6 receptions on the season. 6. That's not from last week. That's not from the last 2 weeks. That's on the entire season. The Chargers, they do not do well against passing down backs. 55 receiving yards per game, which ranks him amongst the highest in the league. He's just 3,200 this week. He makes a lot of things fit, but again, I don't think we have to really worry about making things fit anymore this week. But I just don't understand the love for Freeman this week. I think this is more of a Booker game, so I'm going to go on Booker here.
Reed?
Yeah, again, I'd really like to disagree with Steve on this as much as I want to. I can't. I especially like this call. The only thing I will say, too, and I would have liked Freeman a little bit more if these games, the Chiefs game and the Chargers game, were split, obviously, right? But they're playing at the same time, so the Chargers aren't necessarily going to rest their starters. And if that were said, right, or if that were going to be the case, then maybe Freeman has a path to success if, for whatever reason, they are up. I like Booker a lot in this situation. I might think this prediction is a little bit too low. I think he's going to really shine in this game. So, again, I would like to disagree as much as possible, but I really like this pick.
You probably should because 10 of Steve's last 12 put up your Buke picks since week 12 have underachieved.
Ooh.
Did you do that all by yourself, big boy?
No, we got help, actually. Got some help. Sourced.
Big boy, baby, blew
sourced out. I know I can't take you on by myself, so, yeah, I got some help.
I know, arithmetic is tough for you.
Well, hey, it was a good time being on the graphic with you this week.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah,
Let's go to the next segment. Come
you know
on,
something? We'd be a great team, and you don't want to admit it.
Go away.
I agree. I want to see that.
Show's trending upward. Up next, we'll get caught up with the actives, inactives. Kaufman's going to eat some more popcorn, and then we'll get the latest news ahead of Week 17. Terrell and Azak here, though, to join us and remind us of a big-name receiver that could be out this week.
What's going on? I'm Taryn Azak, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. A Pittsburgh win and a Baltimore loss would send the Steelers to the playoffs, but it looks like they may be without their top receiver today against the Bengals. Antonio Brown wasn't able to practice at all this week due to a knee injury and is listed as questionable. AB will test his knee pregame before a final decision is made, but ESPN's Adam Schefter reports there is not a lot of optimism. It's looking like it will take a dramatic turn for him to be available. This immediately elevates Juju Smith-Schuster to the top of the wide receiver pool in a great matchup with the Bengals. Juju already leads the team in receptions and yards, and with Brown out, he becomes the team's top red zone target. It looks like Pittsburgh will be getting James Conner back for this one as well, but that should only help open up the passing game for Roethlisberger and Smith-Schuster to do their thing. In a must-win game against the NFL's 30th ranked passing defense, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better play than Juju.
All right, Taryn, thank you very much. So as you just heard, and we have told you throughout the show, Antonio Brown is not inactive just yet. Could happen. Still a game-time decision as he tests himself out and sees if he can be ready. But his teammate, James Conner, on the good side of a game-time decision. So Davante Adams, also labeled as, well, no, he's out. Davante Adams is out. Again, there are a trio of Saints that are not going to play in Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Ted Ginn Jr., Ezekiel Elliott's out. Growing list as we inch closer here to 1 o'clock.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde is active, and that, of course, is good news for Jacksonville with Leonard Fournette now out as well. We have also heard that John Brown is out for today. Kenny Golladay is out. T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron are guys for later tonight in the 8 o'clock showdown between the Titans and Colts. They should be good to go. We'll have to hear, of course, later on. Those are not on the main slate. Other guys that we haven't got to yet, Cordero Patterson for the Patriots is out. Deshaun Jackson is out for the Bucks. Kiki Coutier is out for Houston. Devin Funchess is also out today for Carolina.
Okay, so, speaking of those inactives, again, Marcus Mariota is not going to play in this Titans game this evening. Blaine Gabbert will start. So Cowboys locked into that number 4 seed in the NFC. They will won't play Ezekiel Elliott against the Giants. So, again, we've covered a lot of this stuff. Phillip Lindsay is out for the Broncos as well, placed on IR.
Okay, so housekeeping's done. Let's welcome back in Greg Ehrenberg and Reed Fowler. With some teams playing for absolutely nothing in Week 17, picks have been constantly changing. So Greg and Reed were working up a sweat earlier this week, and coming into this week, coming into today, they have been they've been stressed out.
All right, Greg. Who was a player that you were not high on early in the week that maybe you like now?
Yeah, so for me, it's Teddy Bridgewater, mostly because earlier in the week, I didn't know if he was going to play. I thought it could be Drew Brees at quarterback, but now we know that Brees isn't active. I thought Jeff made a good point earlier that maybe Taysom Hill gets involved in the red zone and vultures a touchdown at some point. But look at the Panthers' defense, 26th in pass DVOA this year. And I think that Bridgewater is going to be somebody who gets overlooked in GPPs. I think a lot of people are just going to not think about him because he's typically not starting for the Saints. But this is still an offense that's capable of putting up points. And it's also against a bad pass defense. So I think that Bridgewater makes sense and should be a contrarian play.
How about you, Reed?
There we go. It's going to be Jamison Crowder. I know Steve mentioned, and rightfully so, right? Washington doesn't really have any guys, but garbage time is still, fantasy relevant. And Crowder has gotten 78 yards or over that over the last 2 games, the last 2 of 3 games. And he's seeing about 29% target per route run. Like, they should be in a pass-heavy matchup here with the Eagles, presumably a lot better, and the Washington Redskins playing catch-up. I like Crowder in this spot. He's $4,800. So if you want to go cheap, contrarian, no one's going to be playing any Redskins. I think Crowder is someone that I would like to have in some of my lineups.
I want to clarify, John Brown is expected to play. Still no word on active or inactive for John Brown of the Ravens. All right, now who's someone you liked earlier in the week, but now you want to fade said player, Greg?
Yeah, so somebody who Steve talked about in the last segment, Royce Freeman. I think earlier in the week, it just kind of made sense to me when you think about, hey, Phillip Lindsay's out. He's one of the best running backs in football. Who's going to benefit from that? And immediately Royce Freeman came to mind. But now that we've gotten deeper into the week, I've kind of read more of the reports that have come out from Broncos beat reporters. And it seems like Devontae Booker is going to be involved also. So I'm much lower on Royce Freeman. And I just think there's other guys that are cheap running backs that make more sense. Like for me, I prefer Dwayne Washington at min price to Royce Freeman. So earlier in the week, it just seemed like Royce Freeman chalk play, obvious play. And I just think there's better options available now.
Reed, someone you've changed your mind on and now you want to fade.
Yeah, it's Elijah McGuire again in that plus matchup with New England. Look, New England gives up the 9th lowest red zone targets and red zone opportunities. And this guy is now coming in around 17 to 20% ownership. So Elijah McGuire, whose floor is close to 3 points, getting up in that ownership. I'm going to fade that really quickly. New England's only giving up about the 20th or so in terms of DK fantasy points to running backs. Again, he's going to be out there quite a bit. I think they're going to be playing catch up. But in terms of that ownership at that price tag, Sony Michel is right there. Obviously, James White also there. I feel much more confident in those guys returning value, especially with the ownership lower. And trusting Elijah McGuire at that double digits, I just don't like it. So fade him.
Not a whole lot of reason to talk Patriots-Jets in this particular show. Obviously, that game should be a blowout. But one little fun fact, if you care. Tom Brady and Sam Darnold, the largest discrepancy age-wise between quarterbacks in NFL history, 19 years. Darnold, his junior. So that's fun. Something to look at, I guess, if you're into history. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later on. Jeff Ulrich, Steve Buchanan, they're standing by with their off-the-wall picks. Millionaire picks sound a little bit more appealing at the moment, though, and Reed and Adam Levitan joined this guy, Glash, to reveal their Roman Sunday millionaire picks.
Welcome to $1 Million Picks, presented by Roman. ED meds prescribed online, delivered to your door at GetRoman.com. I'm Brendan Glasheen. We're here to make you money. The goal, identifying players with the most upside for Sunday's main slate. Let's check in with our $1 Million panel. Reed, who do you think can have $1 million impact this weekend? Give me a couple targets.
Yeah, my first one is Chris Carson at 6,500 going against the Cardinals. Look, we saw what C.J. Anderson, who was plucked up off the street. Look what he did against Arizona. That's the 27th ranked team in rush DVOA. So I like where Chris Carson is. He's getting only 50% of the snaps, but getting a lot of attempts. So he'd be my first one. Second one is Julian Edelman going against the Jets at $7,600. Like, I never like to tout a lot of Patriots, but this guy is seeing 11 targets over the last 3 games. And the Jets are 25th per DVOA across the middle. Can't really guard the receivers or across the middle. That's where Julian Edelman tends to shine. So those would be my 2 guys.
Enjoy the games, guys. For the latest news, updates, and analysis, download the DK Live app. All right, back on the sweat. Brendan Glasheen, Adam Kaufman, taking you up until 1 o'clock kickoff. Steve Buchanan hacked his way back onto the program without an invite. Jeff Ulrich, meanwhile, did receive an invite back. Hit the link and join the show.
I just like to see if he's going to go. All right, neither of them.
Great intro, Brandon. Great intro, Brandon.
Okay. Double team. Nice.
Always bringing it.
Brandon treatment's back. It's been a while. Steve and Jeff have formulated their off-the-wall picks. I'm excited.
All right, doesn't take much for Steve. He just closes his eyes and then clicks someone's name. Isn't that right?
You do play-by-play for lacrosse? That must be why it's not so popular.
Okay.
Well, I do play-by-play for other things
All right,
as well.
all right. Let's go. What's the off-the-wall pick?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jay Kumaro. I mean, he's as cheap as you can get at wide receiver at $3,000 for today. Randall Cobb's back in the mix, but I mean, big deal. But there's no Davante Adams, and that could end up being the big factor here. I mean, I have no issue taking him against the Lions here. He played on 78 snaps last week, which is more than the past 3 weeks combined. Doesn't need much of return value either at only $3,000 for today. He did have that touchdown last week. Honestly, anything can go here in week 17, but without Davante Adams, we really haven't seen what a Packers offense has looked like this season without Adams. So I think Kumaro's a pretty interesting take here at just $3,000.
Jeff, you're off the board.
Yeah, I don't mind Kumaro. I think it's definitely in play with the injuries to the Green Bay receivers. I'm going to go with Alex Erickson, kind of a similar situation. So many banged up bodies on the Bengals receiving core. Erickson is basically almost into an every down role. He's playing out of the slot against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, the Steelers tend to leave their linebackers on slot receivers. So this could be a really, really big game for Erickson, who's got punt return, kick return abilities, good after the catch player. So, obviously a boomer bust target, but, he played about 60% of the snaps last week, caught a couple balls. in a game where the Bengals basically did nothing offensively. So if they could get it going even a little bit, I think Erickson's someone who's probably going to benefit. I'll throw this out there, though. I do actually like D.D. Westbrook this week. Steve, do you?
I loved it. I meant to mention that. I love the Bortles Westbrook. I love it this week.
The Texans' pass defense sucks. I actually think it's going to work. So, yeah, we'll see.
I think we have time for a couple of questions from viewers, as far as I know anyway. So, Jay from YouTube, pick one. I'll ask each of you this question. Pick one. Big Ben, Ryan, Luck, Rivers, Rodgers. What do you think, Jeff?
Big Ben, Ryan, Luck, Rivers, Rodgers. Oh, boy. I would go with Luck. I wouldn't touch Rodgers. I think Rivers has a possibility of getting pulled, too, in the middle of the game if the Chiefs are up. So I think I'd go with Luck. They're going to go all out. Go with Andrew Luck.
Steve, again, Big Ben, Ryan, Luck, Rivers, Rodgers.
I like Matt Ryan in this spot. He was one of the choices, right? Yeah. I like him. I mean, it looks like Winston's going to actually end up being playing this week, so I feel like that game should end up being somewhat competitive. But Ryan's not being talked about enough. I think he's in a sneaky good spot this week.
Paul Thomas from YouTube asks, Patriots are going for an undefeated season at home, so he wonders, Steve, do you go with a Brady-Gronk stack today?
Two hurt guys.
I'm just not. I'm not on Brady at all this week. I mean, I know they need to win this game, but I mean, Gronk has just looked horrible. He's not doing much at all. If you're going to play Brady, it has to be with Edelman. I mean, that's going to be his guy. It's been his guy. The Jets are so poor against opposing slot receivers, so I'm not touching Gronk at all. You got to pay up for tight end this week with Kelsey, Ertz, and Kittle in the mix.
Jeff, Steve kept saying Guy. This question's from someone named Guy. Jamal Williams or Tariq Cohen?
I would go with Jamal Williams. It's just he's getting all the snaps, all the carries. It's a cold weather game, and like I said, there's a possibility that the Packers just kind of go very conservative this week and just give him a ton of work to keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. So definitely like the spot for Jamal Williams.
Yeah, watch out for that cold weather. That's definitely going to be a big factor today.
All right, thanks, gents. Over-under is next. Kaufman's going to chat with the sports pope first, Mike Francesa, to preview today's NFL action.
Mike Francesa joins me once again here on The Sweat. And, Mike, I mean, it's a huge day in the NFL. Week 17, we know that. Who's the most dangerous team in the NFL right now, barring some major injury before the playoffs?
Well, it's set up for the Saints. They don't go outdoors again this year. They are set up. They're already the number one seed. They don't have anything to worry about. So they have a chance. But as far as the team I wouldn't want to play, everyone says it's the Bears. I don't agree. I think the NFC is still the teams at the top. I think the AFC, I think it's a little more interesting. But I'll tell you this, I'm really watching Kansas City today because they better be careful. The Raiders, it's a rivalry game. They'll come to give it everything they have, and the Chiefs cannot mess up in this game. They have got to put the pedal to the metal because the difference between winning and losing is enormous. They could slip all the way to the 5. From the 1 to the 5 is like a catastrophic fall. I think the Chiefs will put the pedal to the metal and put 40 on the Raiders.
Close to home for you, Giants are going to host the Cowboys. Is this going to be Eli Manning's final game for Big Blue?
Not sure. I don't know what their plan is. I don't think I've asked the question a lot. I've never gotten a definitive answer. He's under contract for next year. I don't know that they're going to be able to draft the quarterback at the top. My only position is this. I believe they could win if Eli came back.
Odell Beckham Jr., that quad is going to keep him out, so the season's over. 12 games for him, 1,050 yards, 77 catches, 6 touchdowns. Success or disappointment?
Bitter disappointment in every possible way, especially as a teammate, especially as a leader. The Giants are getting nothing what they paid for, and I think if they could do it over again, they would never give him the contract.
All right, well, Rob Gronkowski, disappointing injury-plagued year for the Patriots, said he's all in for this year, kind of included that caveat when meeting with the media late in the week. Deflected questions once again about retirement after, as we know, flirting with it last year. Is this the end for him?
It's the end in the Patriots. The question is, does he want to play? Last year, the Pats tried to trade him. He said he would retire. This year, they won't give him any choice. He won't be on the team next year. So he'll get a chance if he wants to play. He'll get a chance to play somewhere else. I think the Pats will not keep him around. I don't think they'll pay him. So I think he will not be on the Pats next year. The Pats have got some real interesting decisions to make. The Pats are going to wind up with a bye, with a win. They'll get the win. They'll get their bye, which makes them a factor. The only reason, if they had to start the playoffs on the road, I think they would lose. They might be able to steal their way into the Super Bowl. If they do, I think they'll get beaten. I don't think they're the real deal right now. And I think I've seen, and this is heresy, I think I've seen slippage in Brady this year.
You attribute that to age, injury, personnel around him?
All of the above. But it all impacts the quarterbacks. Age, personnel around them, confidence of the staff. I think you've seen all of it. Tom could always drive any vehicle. The old question that they always ask the quarterback is, we know he can drive a Cadillac. Can he drive a Ford? Well, right now, the Pats' offense is a Ford. It's not a Cadillac anymore, which means it's a lot more on the quarterback. And I think you're seeing that he, right now, at this age, probably could still drive a Maserati, but can he drive a Mazda? I'm not sure he can.
Well, and there have been those reports earlier this year that he's dealing with an MCL injury as well. But you
I
brought
think
up
that's a possibility. I think that's a possibility as well. I think he's not 100%.
You brought up the Raiders and Chiefs game earlier. It's maybe a big one, depending on what Oakland can actually do. But seemingly they're all done in Oakland. They going to miss it?
I will. I hope they do. I mean, it's a great home. I understand that when you're not getting the facilities you want, it's all a business. But boy, there's so much history with the Raiders. Their fans have been great fans, pulling the soul of the franchise away from them. And that's what that is. That's going to be hard for them to duplicate anywhere. They might play in some shiny new stadium, but they'll never have the fan base they had. They had one of the great fan bases. That will be sorely missed. The NFL doesn't realize when they pull their franchises out of those kind of towns, they rip the heart out of the league. They really do.
Mike Francesa from Mike's on WFAN in New York. Mike, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
We're getting close to that time. In fact, 14 minutes away from kickoffs, rapidly approaching, and we're revving things up with the quad box here. Let's bring everybody in. Jeff Ulrich, Steve Buchanan, Reed Fowler, and Greg Ehrenberg come together, form the great Square of Knowledge. What is that? The Square of Knowledge.
Square.
Yeah, I guess. We'll see how smart these guys are. Square of Knowledge and Steve, as it's written. You can guess who wrote that. All right, go on.
Hi, cosign. Let's start with Falcons at the Bucks. Over or under 51.5 points. Jeff.
I'm going to take the over here, and it's just the two not very good defenses that don't have much to play for against teams that really don't seem to be resting anyone. I don't think Atlanta's going to be resting Matt Ryan or Julio Jones or anyone like that. So they're probably going to put up a bunch of points. And quite frankly, from a fantasy standpoint, this game actually scares me fading it. So I think I'm going to take the over here.
Steve?
Yeah, I was originally on the under when I thought that Ryan Griffin was going to get some time in here, but I haven't seen anything about that. So if they're just going to go full board, I think you have to like the over here. Like Jeff said, really two bad defenses going up against each other, two teams that have no issues with throwing down the field and getting those big plays here. So if everybody's pretty much playing in this game, I think you got to take the over in this one.
No Deshaun Jackson for Tampa. That's the only real injury update for this one. So Reed, over under 51.5.
Yeah, I'm with Steve on this. I initially was on the under. Even if you look at the raw stats with Winston or whoever's under center, Tampa Bay as home underdogs, not very good differential at -7 or that total at -7.5. But to Jeff's point, he made a good one. Defenses are bad. Everyone's playing. It's going to be pass happy, so over. Greg,
you in agreement with these guys?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these teams played earlier in the year. It was a 34-29 game. The Falcons 29th in DVOA, Bucks 31st in defensive DVOA. These are two competent offenses, two bad defenses, and teams that I think are going to throw the ball. I think that there's a lot of fantasy potential here. Guys like Julio Jones, Mike Evans. I don't know how much ownership they're going to get, but I think they all have a lot of upside. This is a good game stack.
All right, Niners at the Rams, guys. LA aiming to lock up that 2 seed. We know the 1 impossible. So over and under 48.5, Steve.
I was wrestling this one. I think this might be a slight under here. I mean, the Rams would like to clinch the number 2 seed, get them out of wild card weekend here. The 49ers have enough offense that they can keep this game somewhat competitive, but we saw this number drop when it opened. I think it opened up at 50 to begin the week, so it has dropped enough. I think it's at a really good number. I mean, the Rams and 49ers both have really limited offenses over the past 3 weeks. Rams allowing 18 points per game to opponents, 49ers around 17. But I think we definitely see some more offense in this game here. So I think it's at a really good number, but I think it's going to go slightly under.
Reed, 48.5, over under.
Yeah, I'm going to go over here. If you look at the Rams, 25th in pass DVOA. San Francisco, second half, they're 8th in pace of play. So obviously when they're losing, they play up to speed here. And I like the Rams on this spot, especially with Gurley out. I don't think C.J. Anderson has what he had last week against Arizona. This week, 49ers a little bit better against the rush per DVOA. I do like Robert Woods in this spot. I do like Jeff Goff in this spot. San Francisco secondary has been hurt, has been bad. So I do think this goes over.
Niners, Rams, we have an over, we have an under. Greg, where do you fall?
Yeah, I'm going under also. Just looking at what I think the Rams strategy could be to this game, I think they had a lot of success running the ball last week. They're pretty big favorites again. I think they might just run the ball with C.J. Anderson a lot, and I think they want to mitigate the risk of injury here. They've been really conservative with their guys down the stretch of the season. We know they're already without Cooper Kupp. Todd Gurley is out today. So I think they're just going to run the ball with C.J. Anderson, who's not part of the playoff plans anyway. They don't care if he gets hurt. They don't care if he's at risk at all. So I think they're just going to give the ball to Anderson a lot and try to, really slow the game down.
Jeff, you want to even this thing up and just utterly confuse everybody?
And agree with Reed? No, thanks. I'm taking the under, too. There's a lot of ways this game could go, and it's admittedly not one of my favorite game totals to bet on. But if I was forced to choose, I'm taking the under here. I agree. I think the Rams are going to try and run the ball, and I also don't trust the 49ers on the road to put up points. They've been good at home, not good on the road, so I think that's what it comes down to. Like a 30-14 game, I think that's the most likely scenario, and that would be the under. So
wait, Jeff, wasn't your anchor pick George Kittle, but you don't trust the San Francisco offense?
Still get him lots of yards, Reed.
That doesn't matter. If you think it's going to do well, I think that correlates to the Niners having a decent chance, not to win.
Keep going.
He didn't say he's going to get in the end zone. He just said he's going to get yards.
Wow, Kaufman's sticking up for me. I'm
turning a new leaf ahead of 2019, Jeff.
Great.
I feel bad that I'm not involved in some spat this week. There's all kind of fights going on. It's just that, Kaufman, I think that we're obligated now. We have to start, yelling at each other or something.
Well, we can talk about the Patriots and Jets and make you feel good.
Yeah, speaking of, the Patriots have the same scenario as the Rams. A win over the mindless Jets secures the 2 seed in the AFC. So, Reed, over under 46 points, Patriots-Jets today in Foxborough.
Yeah, interesting here. I'm going to take the over. Jets 10-5 hitting the over. That really surprised me. And New England is the exact opposite, hitting the over. They're about 5-10, not really scoring a lot of points. You obviously like New England at home, being able to score a lot of points. I think they, especially with Julian Edelman, I think the Patriots do put up a lot. So I'm going to say over.
Greg, feel free to get mad at one of us in your take here. What do you got? Over under 46?
So I like the over a lot better earlier in the week. The number opened at 44, and it's slowly been creeping up. I'm still going to say slightly over at 46.5, but this was definitely a better number to bet earlier in the week. If you just look at the pace of play for both these teams, the Pats play the 3rd fastest pace in the league. The Jets play the 16th fastest pace. I know that these teams the Patriots games have been trending more towards unders recently, but I think there's a lot on the line for the Patriots. And we've seen Bill Belichick in games against division rivals. When they get ahead, he kind of just puts his foot on the throat. There is no we're going to be conservative. It's we run up the score and we win by as many points as possible. So I think that's a possibility here.
If I could interject real quick, I think that's generally, historically, that is true of the Patriots. But if last week was any indication, where the Pats clearly don't give a crap about the gamblers and whether, they cover the over, and Tom Brady, because he's obviously hurt, ends up sitting the last 7 minutes of the game so Brian Hoyer can come in, you could definitely see that against the Jets today.
Well, maybe he cares about the under bettors then. How do you know that's not his mindset?
Yeah, maybe.
Jeff,
let's
weigh
give him
in,
a chance to catch up.
God, this is a new year because now I'm agreeing with everything Kaufman's saying, too. I love the under in this spot for a lot of the reasons Adam just said. I mean, it's a different Patriots team. They're run heavy. They don't have an explosive offense to beat teams down with anymore. You saw them against a very similar opponent in the Bills last week. It was 24-12. Brady out there throwing a couple INTs that he usually doesn't do. And I'm not saying Brady's going to play bad here, but you're basically relying on Sam Darnold and the Jets to come in here in Foxborough in December, his first time, and put up a big game to get this to the over. I don't want to rely on that. And the Patriots offense isn't scoring enough. So I really like the under 46 here.
Kaufman and Jeff getting along. There's hope for Steve Buchanan and I. Steve, Tom Brady, you weren't high on Tom Brady, so over or under the 46?
Sorry, I have your mic muted until the camera switches to me, then I turn the audio back on. I think this one goes over. I mean, look, we have 2 bad defenses going in this game. It's hard to compare what the Patriots did offensively last week against the Bills and then what they can do against the Jets this week. They're miles apart in terms of defensive abilities here. Look, the Jets have allowed over 32 points, averaging in the past 3 games. The Patriots at 21. The biggest concern here for the over is if the Patriots can stop Robbie Anderson. Obviously, they're going to put Stephon Gilmore on him, which is fine, but I think this might actually end up being a sneaky game for Jermaine Kearse, but don't quote me on that one. But honestly, like we said earlier, the Patriots aren't afraid of putting the foot on the throat there, especially in a game that's a must-win for them if they want to get that high seed ranking here. So I like the over in this one. I think it definitely has a shot to do so.
I never would have thought the Bukes-Brendan battle would start off so funny and then just totally jump the shark in a span of 90 minutes. But here we are. Bengals at the Steelers. Line is set for 45.5, guys. Greg, over under.
So I'm going to go with the under here, and it's mostly just because I don't see how the Bengals are going to score points. Like, the Steelers are motivated to win this game, so they're playing all the starters, and just the Bengals have mostly backups playing. Driscoll's been miserable as a starting quarterback. I think the Steelers could score plenty of points. I just don't think the Steelers are going to be able to cover this number all by themselves.
Well, and again, may not have Antonio Brown. What do you think, Jeff?
I'll take the under here. I think Antonio Brown possibly being out kind of hurts the Steelers a little bit. They might play a little bit more conservative, and they're obviously coming in off the letdown. So, I mean, you might see a bit of a bad performance. I mean, look, Pittsburgh is good at playing down to their opponents, right? So I'm not saying they're going to lose the game, but they might make this closer than it should be. So I think I definitely take the under here. This is another game total that it's really tough to figure out because you just do not know what the Bengals offense is going to do week to week. So, I'll take the under here.
Steve, Pitt is still fighting for a playoff berth, though.
I think this one goes over. 45.5 just feels like a little bit too low with a game that, has the Steelers offense and everything they can do and how bad the Bengals offense is as well. Yeah, like Adam just said, Pittsburgh is trying to win this game and they need to win this game. So they're going to do everything they can to keep their foot on the gas here. They don't want to chance anything. The Steelers defense has been night and day this season. We've seen them totally show up and shut down offenses, and we've seen the complete opposite. I'm not saying that the Bengals offense is anything competent at this point, but they're still putting up some points in the last couple of weeks. They haven't been totally inadequate. So I like the over on this one. I just think 45.5 is just a little bit too low here.
Read over or under.
Yeah, I'm in a complete agreement with Steve here with the over. I get that Cincinnati can't, the idea that they can't score points, and they're 0-4 with a couple of pushes against that over number. But look at what Pittsburgh has done, especially at home over the last 3 games. I think they can do it by themselves. They're averaging 33 points in that time frame, and they're in a must-win situation. They still have James Conner. That should be, if they want to win this game, they have to, especially with AB being out. James Conner is there. You can sprinkle in James Samuels as well. Like Juju Smith-Schuster is still there. Their tight ends are still able to approach this Cincinnati team that is virtually bad against every facet, every position. So I do think 45.5 is too low because the Steelers can get pretty close to that number just on their own.
Let's do one more quick one because I think there's a lot of attention on Browns and Ravens. It's a must-win for the Ravens. You got Baker, you got Lamar Jackson. 40.5 is the over-under. We'll start with you, Jeff. Over-under.
Yeah, we went over this one the other day. I'll stick to the under here. The pace of play and the way the Ravens control the ball and Baker Mayfield, who I love, I'm absolutely excited to watch this game. I just don't know if there's going to be enough points here. So it's not very good analysis for me, but I do like the under here in the spot.
Well, why should anything change, right, Jeff?
All right, Steve, hit on mute, please.
Yeah, I think this one goes under as well. I mean, these are 2 good defenses, honestly. And, it's what are you going to really get from the Browns in this game? I'm having a real tough time with this number. I feel like it's almost in a perfect spot here. Like one of those 19-18 games feels kind of like it would be the likely score here. But Ravens defense is just so damn good. It's really hard to get any offense going against them. This is a must win for them. So I like the under on this one.
Reed and then Greg, real quick, please.
Yeah, I agree with these guys. If you look at Cleveland, especially against that number, they're -2 in division games. This division specifically, really, these games are always competitive. So I'm going to say under.
Greg?
Yeah, it has to be an under for me also. Ravens defense, 2nd overall in defensive DVOA this year. And then what are they going to do on offense? They're just going to run the ball a million times with Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards. So low scoring game, slow pace, under.
All right, let's go around the horn real quick. Slate approved picks. We'll go right back to you, Greg. Get us started.
Saquon Barkley, I think that the Giants are going to try to get him that Offensive Rookie of the Year award. There aren't really a whole lot of guys that I'm comfortable paying up for because a lot of the studs are resting this week. But Barkley's a guy I think should get a lot of work.
Reed?
Yeah, double down on Barkley here, especially against with that bad offensive line, right? They're 27th per run block, and he's matchup proof. He's done it really well against the Colts and Dallas, who are top 5 in rush DVOA. Love this guy.
Jeff?
Kittler, George Kittle. It's the week of the tight ends. They're going for records. He's going to break it.
And my best pal, Steve Buchanan.
Yeah, it's got to be Juju. It's a must-win game for the Steelers. AB is banged up. You got to go with Juju.
I wish you guys could get along. Maybe in the new year. That was fun, though. Final edition of the Sweat in 2018. We're looking forward to 2019, delivering even more laughs, knowledge, insults, contests. Most importantly, of course, the best lineup construction for all of you that have been kind enough to watch us throughout the year. We're excited for it. So enjoy the games today. You got a full fat slate, 15 games, and that game later on tonight. You don't come along those often. Sweat returns Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Before that, make sure you tune in to the Sweaties New Year's Day to find out who won DK Live's year-end awards. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.